Most people think financial discipline is about willpower. They assume some people are naturally strong, naturally controlled, naturally better with money. And if you struggle to save, track expenses, or stick to a plan, it must mean something is wrong with you. But here is something quietly true. Two people can earn the same income, live in the same city, face the same prices, and still experience money very differently. One feels in control, the other feels constantly behind. The difference is rarely intelligence. It is rarely effort. And it is almost never motivation. It is structure. In this video, we are going to look at why financial discipline feels so hard in everyday life, especially for middle-class earners trying to balance responsibilities, pressure, and uncertainty. And more importantly, we will explore why discipline becomes easier for some people over time, not because they try harder, but because they change how decisions are made. This is not about extreme frugality. It is not about denying yourself everything. It is about understanding the environment in which your financial behavior happens. Because behavior is rarely random. It follows patterns. In daily life, money decisions do not appear as big dramatic moments. They show up quietly. A small purchase after a stressful day, a subscription that feels harmless, an upgrade that seems deserved, a delay in tracking expenses because today was exhausting. None of these moments feel important, yet over time, they accumulate into a financial direction. What makes discipline difficult is not the size of the decision. It is the frequency of decisions. Every day, you are asked to choose between immediate comfort and long-term stability. And every choice requires mental energy. This is where most people begin to struggle, not because they do not care about their future, but because their decision capacity is limited. Psychologists often describe this as decision fatigue. The more choices you make throughout the day, the harder it becomes to make thoughtful ones later. A person who has worked a full day, handled responsibilities, and managed stress is not operating with the same mental clarity at night as they were in the morning. When financial discipline depends entirely on daily self-control, it is competing against fatigue, emotion, and stress. That is not a fair competition. Imagine two individuals with similar incomes. One decides every month how much to save. The other set up an automatic transfer years ago. On the surface, both are saving money, but internally, their experiences are completely different. The first person must negotiate with themselves repeatedly. Some months they succeed, some months they postpone. Each decision feels heavy. The second person rarely thinks about saving at all. The decision already happened in the past. The behavior continues without effort. This is the moment discipline quietly transforms into structure. Financial discipline feels hard when it depends on constant choice. It feels easier when fewer choices are required. This is why many people misinterpret their struggle. They believe they lack discipline, when in reality they lack systems. And systems change the emotional experience of money. To understand this more deeply, we need to look at how the human mind processes rewards. Immediate rewards are powerful. They are clear, visible, and emotionally satisfying. Long-term rewards are abstract. They exist in the future, where uncertainty lives. When a person chooses between spending today and stability later, they are not simply comparing numbers. They are comparing emotional certainty with abstract possibility. The brain naturally gives more weight to what can be felt now. This does not mean people are irresponsible. It means they are human. However, something interesting happens when structure reduces the number of emotional negotiations. When saving, investing, or budgeting becomes automated or routine, the brain stops treating these actions as sacrifices. They become normal conditions of life. In other words, discipline becomes identity. You can see this pattern clearly in middle-class financial behavior. Many households are not reckless. They are careful, responsible, and hardworking. Yet they often operate in what can be called reactive mode. Expenses are handled as they appear. Savings happen if money remains. Planning exists, but it competes with unpredictability. Reactive systems create emotional pressure because every unexpected event feels like a disruption. Proactive systems absorb uncertainty more quietly because decisions were made in advance. This difference is subtle but powerful. Consider lifestyle inflation. Income increases gradually. Expenses adjust quietly. Comfort improves. Nothing appears wrong. Yet over time, the financial margin does not expand. It simply shifts. This does not happen because people want to lose progress. It happens because improvement in living standards feels reasonable. Each step is justified, but without structure, improvement replaces stability rather than building on it. Another pattern appears in how people view control. Many believe control comes from monitoring everything constantly, tracking every expense, checking balances frequently, thinking about money daily. But constant attention can also create anxiety, and anxiety drains decision capacity further. Ironically, structured systems reduce the need for constant attention while improving outcomes. This is why financial discipline often becomes easier for people who appear less obsessed with money. They are not making fewer mistakes because they think more. They are making fewer decisions because key behaviors are already defined. There is also an emotional dimension that rarely gets discussed. When financial behavior improves, self-trust improves. And when self-trust improves, decisions feel lighter. A person who has experienced consistency begins to expect consistency from themselves. This expectation changes identity. Instead of thinking, "I hope I can manage money this month," the internal voice becomes, "This is how I operate." That shift is not dramatic, it is gradual, but it changes the relationship between effort and outcome. Many middle-class earners live under persistent pressure. Responsibilities extend beyond personal needs. Family expectations, social comparison, and uncertainty about the future all influence financial behavior. Under these conditions, discipline cannot rely on motivation alone. Motivation fluctuates. Systems remain. It is also important to understand that progress does not begin with large changes. It begins with reducing friction in important behaviors and increasing friction in unhelpful ones. If saving requires repeated manual action, it competes with convenience. If spending requires no pause, it becomes default behavior. Small structural adjustments reshape outcomes over time because they reshape how often decisions must be made. When people say discipline becomes easier, they are not describing increased strength. They are describing reduced resistance. This brings us to a quiet but important insight. Financial discipline is not a personality trait. It is an environment. When the environment supports consistent behavior, discipline appears strong. When the environment demands constant negotiation, discipline appears weak. The person did not change. The structure did. Understanding this removes unnecessary self-criticism. It allows a more constructive question to emerge. Instead of asking, "Why am I not disciplined enough?" the question becomes, which decisions can be simplified or predetermined? That question shifts focus from blame to design. Over time, small structural decisions compound, not just financially, but psychologically. Stress decreases because uncertainty decreases. Confidence increases because behavior becomes predictable. And when predictability increases, long-term thinking becomes easier. This is why financial progress often feels slow at first and smoother later. The early phase requires building structure. The later phase benefits from it. There is a common belief that discipline is about restriction. In reality, discipline is about clarity. When important decisions are made calmly in advance, fewer decisions must be made under pressure. And perhaps this is the most reassuring part. If financial discipline has felt difficult, it does not mean you are failing. It means you have been relying on effort where structure was needed. It means your environment has been asking too much from moment-to-moment self-control. When the system changes, the experience changes. Money stops feeling like a series of battles and begins to feel like a direction. And once direction exists, progress no longer depends on daily motivation. It depends on continuity. Financial discipline does not become easy overnight, but it becomes easier when behavior no longer depends on constant negotiation between present comfort and future stability. In the end, the goal is not perfection. The goal is reducing friction in the actions that protect your future and reducing pressure on the decisions that shape your life quietly over time. Because discipline is not something you force forever. It is something you design once and then allow to carry you forward. Financial structure supports you even when motivation is low. Systems protect your future quietly in the background. Over time, consistency replaces struggle. Stability replaces uncertainty. Direction replaces confusion. And progress becomes a natural outcome rather than a daily fight. This is how discipline quietly transforms into freedom.